Wrong opening fanfare.
But that's okay, because we're back. And it's been a few minutes, and we've had a few drinks, and we're kind of refreshed, and we're not really. And let's kick this pig. Let's do this. Let's
and when
tackle
he
this
said
beast.
drinks, we had tea.
Don't presume what I had.
Oh, I had tea.
I don't presume what you had. Okay, so we're here to talk about the prequel trilogy. Do we have to?
Yes.
Man,
We said we would.
Man.
I really wanted to go into this with an open mind. Like, maybe the prequels were not as bad as I remember.
And we did go into this with an open mind. Because when we talk about the prequels, we talk about them, or before this situation, we talked about them more favorably than we will tonight.
Yeah. So let's click over to our little graphic.
So as per the usual.
Yeah, so we'll talk about memories. Then we'll get into our gripes and likes. It'll be more gripes. Spoiler alert.
Way more.
We will also talk about what we feel are the most important scenes, and then the best and worst of the foreshadowing / dramatic irony. Depending on the way you watch the movies, they're either foreshadowing, or if you're like us and seen all of the original trilogy in release order, then it's actually dramatic irony.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. So let's talk a little bit about memories before we get into all of this.
So for all of my love of Star Wars, I don't remember seeing episode 1 in the theater. I remember seeing, I think, 2 and 3 in the theater.
We went to see 3 together.
Right. But I remember at least seeing the trailers for 2, and we're just like, oh, Yoda's gonna fight. Yoda's gonna fight. And it was pretty epic.
Yeah, I went and saw the first one, Phantom Menace, on an examination day. We were in finals week at school, and my sister came and picked me up, and I was so excited to go see it. Like, yay, I love Star Wars, a new one. It's going to be so great. He planned out everything in advance. This is when I was young and naive and in 9th grade. And then I remember sitting in the movie theater and going, well, not that. It was more like, there's no stakes in this movie. Like, obviously, Anakin is going to win this pod race. Or if he doesn't win, some other kind of deus ex machina, I did not use that term at the time.
Yeah, something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen to where they rescue him and he gets to go to the Jedi area.
As a side note,
Jedi
I think that
area,
been,
#Ashley.
I think that would have been more interesting. Like, if they had to get clever to get Anakin out of there. Because Obi-Wan's not gonna let Anakin stay there.
Yeah.
So you want to check in the chat real quick?
Yeah, let's check into the chat. Yeah.
So Cal is back with us for now. I know he's got to hit the hay fairly soon. Randall's with us, saying that he is a Phantom Menace defender for life.
Nice.
And that's good on you, man. No, I'm playing. It's not great. It is not the worst. It's not the worst. There is worse. It gets worse. But there are very many high points that I really like about Phantom Menace, personally.
So shall we just get into them?
Well, my most vivid memory, we talked about this, and it's hilarious. So the first time I remember seeing Phantom Menace, I was at your house, like one Saturday hanging out. We were just chilling, watching TV, and like Phantom Menace was on one of the channels or something. Let's watch Star Wars. I'm like, okay. And I fell asleep. I think before the pod race. I think I may have fallen asleep before they met Boss Nass.
Wow.
And woke up at the final fight.
Well, at least you knew to wake up at the good part.
I just hear.
Who is that guy?
What is that music? This melodious tune. But yes, that is my most vivid memory of the Phantom Menace.
All right, before we move on, if you want to go ahead and click on the screen and we can check in with the chat.
We are on the screen.
Okay, I forgot. Sorry.
It's fine.
It's different.
My sister has joined back in. Welcome, Leah. And I'm scruffy at the very least. because I mean you can't really see it, but I got like some 5 o'clock shadow going.
You're on your screen.
Yeah.
Have you clicked?
But we're going back to the other screen.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yes. Production notes. Right. All right, now you can read the chat.
All right, so and then Randall says Attack Clones is snooze for me. I get it. I get it.
See that? Yeah.
Love the lightsaber fights in 3. I can also see that. Little to love in all of them, really. And yeah, I can see that. There is at least one thing in each of these films I am like, this is a fantastic thing from this film. And we'll get to those as we go to them, because the likes are less likes and more like the only hidden gem in this film.
Yeah.
But.
All right. So moving on. The Phantom Menace was released May 19th, 1999. So, yeah, we were in the 9th grade when this came out. Super excited to go see it. And then when I did, it was not as exciting. I didn't totally hate the movie, but I definitely saw some of the flaws. And it's really interesting to go back and see the audience reaction after this movie came out, because everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it was the best Star Wars ever."
They were blinded by the for what it was ahead of its time graphics and the music and the cool villain, and they were blinded by the few things that were good.
Yeah, and then now people, of course, are
pretty wise
to it. All right, so many gripes.
So many
with this movie.
Just want to go through the list.
One of the things I noted was Jar Jar's character in general. There's no secret that he is not a fan favorite, although he does have his fans.
He does.
Not a fan favorite.
It is, though, less controversial than Ewoks.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even mention Ewoks in the other thing. Anyway.
We like Ewoks.
Yes. So Jar Jar, anytime there's a comic relief moment with Jar Jar, it just so contrasts with the tone that it seems like they're trying to set. It's so out of place. And I don't remember it feeling that way when I was younger. But now as an adult, and I haven't seen these movies particularly, I don't usually rewatch the prequels. It's been a long time since I've seen any of them. And again, we try to go in with an open mind. Maybe they're not as bad as people say or as we may remember. But just the tone with Jar Jar, it was just so off-putting. Like, what is going on? These are horrible. Another one that stood out to me, kind of going back to a thread that we talked about in the first episode of our little series, was the stereotypes with the different aliens.
Oh, man. It's so noticeable in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, where they're, if they're going to be an alien, why not just give them, like, a cool alien language to speak? But instead, like, I don't remember what they were called, but the ones that are conspiring.
The leader of the Separatists?
Yes.
They're Newt Gunray, and I can't remember the other characters' names.
I'm not really good with all of the names of the characters.
Or the species.
And that's in any movie. It's not just Star Wars. But they're, like, kind of portrayed as, like, a racist caricature of Asian people. Like
what you would see in, like, a 1940s movie.
Yeah, and it's like, what is going on here? Like, what are you trying to say, George? Yeah. What are you saying?
Similar with Watto being
where it's kind of like a stereotypical like Middle Eastern or
like Persian. With his incredibly thick accent, sounding like he's trying, like it sounds like he comes from that region of Earth as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's very disturbing to watch.
Yeah, it's like, what's the point of all of that? It's just really. Like, I remember it kind of standing out to me.
But I feel like when we were kids, we gravitated more towards seeing, like, the fact that, like, the Jar Jar stuff was kind of weirdly, vaguely veiled racist and stuff like that. But it blinded us to the other crap that was happening in that film.
And then going back to what I said about the pod race, that still bothered me because, obviously, they were going to figure out a way to get the kid. And it just feels like there's no point other than to show off, like, look, we can do a cool thing.
It felt like they're trying to replicate the feel of the speeder bikes in Jedi.
Maybe.
But it's not as exciting because the stakes weren't combat related. The stakes were just some race.
Yeah. And then the fact that the announcers that they had, it was like this two-headed alien, and the announcer voice, like, one of them was, I think, in an alien language, and the other one felt like a parody of a NASCAR announcer. I'm like, what place does this have in the Star Wars universe?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just like so enamored with how timeless and everything felt in the original trilogy. When these pop culture-y things started cropping up in the prequels, it just really threw me off. Right. Because Star Wars really did feel like a galaxy that was, you know, far away, and now it feels like it's down the street. And that's not what I want for my Star Wars. And so that really bothered me, and that's the next thing I noticed the first time I watched it, but definitely stood out now. And then poor Jake Lloyd.
Yeah. Rewatching this, he doesn't grate on me as much, but I know what it is about his performance that grates. It's the fact that it's like every line he delivers is re-ADR'd over.
Yeah, it's like they got it from a different take.
Yes.
It doesn't, like, it feels like his audio is way louder than everybody's, and it feels like it's not.
Or he's portraying the wrong emotion for it. Like when he's like, yay! Like his body's like, but the voice response is like, yay! It's just, it's not accurate. And this kid tries.
Yeah, I don't think he's
doing a good job.
I don't think he's like the worst actor ever. But it's definitely, first of all, the material's not that good.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
It's really
George Lucas really needed his wife working on this movie. That's kind of one of the things that made the original trilogy good, is he had kind of that sounding board, and she did have some technical, provided some technical assistance on it. He's not the best writer, guys.
No.
Harrison Ford talked about creative. Harrison Ford talked about like the dialogue and how they would have to like shift things and change things. Like you could read it, but you can't say it. And this really shows bad in the trilogy, the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And then, Jake Lloyd, we're not here to make fun of children. That's not nice.
No.
He can't help it. It's not his fault that the material was not the best.
And he tried. He does a good job. Like rewatching these, he's actually stronger than I remember him being.
Yeah, like I actually kind of liked him a little better. He didn't seem that annoying to me. Just like a typical kid that maybe is a little bit GT.
Yeah.
Because he's very gifted with the flight and he's building the 3PO droid.
Also, he's Force Jesus.
That too. Yeah, that's another thing I forgot about.
It's like Man of Steel level symbolism.
Yeah, the midichlorian count.
Oh, can we not?
I forgot about. I tried to wipe that from my mind. That's definitely another controversial element, is the fact that the Force is these little like microorganisms.
See, if they explained midichlorians to where it was like this is a bacteria that's attracted to people that have the Force, that would make more sense. Because if he had more in his bloodline, that would mean he's very powerful with the Force. So more midichlorians are like, oh man, this is like lunch. So.
But yeah, there's like a lot more that we probably could say about the first episode and like what makes it wrong. I know that all of Queen Amidala's hairstyles started to bother me. It's like, just pick one. What is the point of all these hairstyles? Pick one. Are they trying to sell dolls?
And I'm not even going to bring up like I'm not going to harp on. I'll bring it up. The fact that they're democratically elected rulers of queens.
I know that doesn't make any sense.
But it's
just
the fact that it's
the president.
I mean, it doesn't matter really. It's a word's a word. They can use whatever they want. They can call her a pleepock or whatever. It doesn't matter. But it's one of those situations where it's like it's a weird name choice. And I think they do that just so Leia is legitimately a princess.
Okay, yeah.
It feels like George Lucas is like, we'll talk about the rush to Stark Place later.
But there are some things that we do like about this movie. I don't want us to seem like we're just like here to go, we can make fun of the prequels, easy target, guys.
Yeah.
That's not the point of this. So one of the best things, of course, I really loved Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn. I thought he was pretty good.
We do love that Liam
Neeson is pretty great, and I think he was one of the better actors in that movie, besides, of course, Ewan McGregor as young Obi-Wan. Yep.
A role he was born to play, because let's face it, as the movies progress, he is quite possibly the best thing about them. And we get little of young Obi-Wan in this one. He's very much still very Padawan-y, where he's just kind of like, yes, master. Okay, master.
They're little rat tails.
His little dude. We're in the South. To anybody that grew up in the South, that was the 5th grade hairstyle.
Yes.
In the 90s. Holy
little rat tail, little braid. Yeah, like tons of little young boys had the little rat tail hairstyle. It did not look good back then. It did not look good on. It's not a good look, Jedi Council. Change the look.
It's like the more artistic mullet.
Yeah, because now they have like the little rat tail, but then also like a little ponytail. Yep. I'm sure that probably has some kind of cultural reference that we're not getting.
Super symbolic.
That's
or something.
Not the South. Or maybe to like samurai or something, but
could represent the top knot.
That would be now if they made Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then of course Darth Maul. I am so sad that he died.
He didn't though.
Well, I
mean, we'll talk about that
okay.
on Saturday.
Okay. Apparently he didn't die. Well, he looked like he died.
Yet. But yes, Maul is one of the coolest things about Phantom Menace, because up until then we only had Vader and the Emperor, and Vader is this big intimidating force, and the Emperor is the Emperor. He's evil space wizard, but Maul is like some sort of animal. He fights like he's just nothing but instinct and
like
violence.
Just pacing around,
yes,
waiting.
Which we'll talk about that. That may be.
Okay.
Is that one of our liked things? If it's not, I'm going to talk about it.
No.
Okay.
We both had the same one.
So the scene when it's Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul fighting, which has the best music with Duel of the Fates. Best. So good they use it for the entire prequel trilogy. But the best part about that scene is when these blast shields go up in the middle of the fight. So you have Anakin or not Anakin, getting ahead of myself. Obi-Wan who's kind of like getting ready. He's like standing there, like hopping on the balls of his feet, getting ready to fight more. You have Qui-Gon showing his experience, who sits down and meditates because you have to refocus. And then you have Maul literally with one blast shield separating Qui-Gon and Maul is pacing like a tiger in a cage, just waiting to pounce. It is intense. It is one of the best directed scenes in this film, and it captures the essence of those characters so vividly. So vividly.
All right, before we move on to what we feel are the most important scenes, and I think we agreed on the same one, hopefully. That's what I have in my notes. Let's check in with the chat.
Cal is bringing up that Keira Knightley was the stand-in for Natalie Portman. They both look so much alike. That time their parents couldn't tell them apart. Wow. I'd imagine figuring out which one is on scene, because it's true. At some points, you're not sure which one is which.
That was a pretty good casting choice.
It really was. Fantastic.
Anything else?
No. Randall, Cal, and my sister are the only ones in the chat currently that have participated in the chat that we can talk to and say hi to, that I can see. I'm reading. Well, I don't see anything. So.
All right. All right, I think we actually did pick some different important scenes, as my notes might be wrong. But one of the very important scenes is when they bring young Anakin to the Jedi Council, and they are talking about how he is the chosen one, or Qui-Gon thinks he's the chosen one.
His countess off the charts.
And they want to train him as a Jedi, and they're like, no, you can't do this. He's too old.
Well, they talk to him first.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, there's fear in you, et cetera, et cetera. Then they're like, no, we're not going to do it. Because you get the feeling that maybe they're considering it for a minute.
Yeah, because they put him through some different tests. Like he's on some like iPad, like Yoda's holding up like an iPad, basically.
I think Mace Windu is.
Yeah, I think it was Mace Windu. Yeah, holding up.
They're basically pulling the Xener card test from the beginning of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's like, "What? I'm just guessing the things that you're asking me to," and just very casual, like a little kid would be.
Kimber's rejoined the chat, by the way.
Oh, awesome! Now the party is truly started.
Player Kimber has rejoined the fight.
And of course, we also love everybody else is here.
Yes, we do.
And everybody's
thank
watching.
You, Cal. Thank you for Randall. Thank you, Leah, for coming back in. And for anyone watching that isn't participating in the chat, or anyone watching afterwards,
I know Kimber was worried about missing things.
Yep.
So she hasn't missed too much.
Yeah, we're still just dumping
us
on
making
Phantom Menace.
Yeah, just making fun of Phantom Menace. All right, and so this is where they've decided that we cannot train him. He's too old. And so this is a pivotal moment because they're noticing something, that there's something off about this kid, and not just because the ADR is bad.
Yeah. that he's just kind of off.
Yeah, there's just something not quite right with him, and it would be an error.
Dangerous.
It's an error to train him in the ways of the Force.
Yep. Which is also weird if you think about it. Like, what are they going to do? Are they just going to unleash this incredibly powerful quasi-Force god onto the world untrained?
Yeah, like, I think that would be much worse.
Yeah, you'd think, like, the Jedi would be like, we have to train him.
So that we can protect the world.
Yeah. So
and to show him how to use his powers for good.
So it's like why Xavier takes in mutants, because otherwise they may not be able to control their powers and accidentally hurt people.
Yes.
But it's very symbolic, too, because we know what happens.
Of course. All right, and then another moment that we alluded to earlier.
When Qui-Gon dies. It's pretty important because Qui-Gon asks Obi-Wan to train Anakin because Qui-Gon was basically like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to the council. I'm going to train him anyway.
Yeah.
So he asks Obi-Wan to take on his stewardship of the young Skywalker.
And, of course, very tragic for Obi-Wan to see his master killed before him, paralleled to Luke seeing Obi-Wan killed in the first movie. So...
Yeah, it is a pretty important, impactful scene. The only thing that kind of lessens it is we don't really... I mean, granted, we didn't know Obi-Wan as much originally, but at this point in, like, Star Wars, we are well acquainted with Obi-Wan, but losing in the world of Star Wars, but losing Qui-Gon is like, we like this character, but he wasn't in the movies later.
Yeah, so they have to a lot of the characters suffer from like a lack of plot armor.
Yeah,
because it's like, well, you're not in the sequels, so
something's gonna happen to you.
So you gotta go. Might as well go now.
Yeah.
Bye.
So. But it's still very impactful because this does affect Obi-Wan deeply, and this is probably the event that pushes Obi-Wan into being a Jedi Master. Or Jedi Knight. I'm not exactly sure quite what rank he's at by the time he takes on Anakin as a Padawan.
But then also knowing that this was his master's wish probably, makes him like feel... like obligated to do this, even though like he may also have some doubts about Anakin. His master is the one that wanted him to take on this Padawan, so like I have to do this to honor my master's memory.
Yep.
And it's not like we have Force ghosts, so it's not like he can seek counsel from his.
Sorry, I'm having to stop a cat from eating a tree.
Yeah, fun times.
Anywho.
All right, before we move on to Attack of the Clones, let us check back in with our chat.
Now that Kimber's joined us, the party has really gotten started. Kimber and Cal said hi to each other.
Good. Everybody being friends.
They wasted the best two characters. I completely agree, Kimber. Though one of them comes back.
Keep saying that.
But yes, Kimber is right. They didn't have to kill them in the first one.
They
didn't have to kill Qui-Gon initially. I think it would have been better for him to survive. I think I have an idea. We're going to talk about this towards the end, how they should have been made.
Okay.
And I have some theories on how they should have done stuff too.
Alrighty. Well, let's go back.
Well, Qui-Gon coming back isn't the same, Cal.
All right.
Boom.
So the Attack of the Clones came out on May 16th, 2002. So this is before we graduated from high school.
By like 2 weeks.
By 2 weeks. And I remember not hating this movie when it first came out.
I remember being excited for this movie more than Phantom Menace because we saw the trailers for like a Harry Potter movie.
Probably.
And we get to see the scene when Yoda hobbles into a room, throws his cane to the side, pulls his lightsaber with the Force and ignites it. And we're all just like, oh my God, Yoda's going to fight. And that's going to be so cool.
Yeah. So, yeah. But upon rewatching it, I'm thinking this one's the worst.
It's bad.
It
suffers from the reverse Empire effect.
Yeah, it's so bad. Like, we're rewatching it and, we had to kind of watch them not in shifts, but our schedules are different, so it's like, okay,
we watched Phantom Menace together, and then we started watching Attack of the Clones.
And I was so tired.
She crashed out, and
I was making the most hilarious comments though, because when I get tired, all the snark comes out. My grammar was terrible. And
you think I'm spicy? She's like habanero over here.
And I was saying so many great things. I wish that we had recorded it. I don't remember any of them now, but I know it was hilarious because I laugh at myself.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
This movie is so boring. Like, for real. So this is where we get to meet the Hayden Christensen version of Anakin Skywalker, which I had misremembered. I thought he was in the first one. I, conflated so many things about these movies because it's been so long.
Well, the badness blends together.
So yeah, it drags on, and then they have more Senate stuff. That was bad in the first movie. Why would you have more Senate hearings?
And
nobody cares about the Senate.
I came to a realization as we were watching these films what makes these conversations so boring. Think back to the original trilogy, and in the original trilogy, anytime they'd have a briefing, it'd be a room chock full of people, but everyone's close.
Everyone's war room.
There, it's like a war room. There's maybe 40 people in this room, but they're all there. In the Senate or any of the scenes where there's long conversations with 6 people. Yawning there because you're so bored remembering it.
Yes. I'm I don't even want to hear this conversation.
The rooms are so big. It's there could be something happening a mile away in this room, and we couldn't see it because we're falling asleep because these 6 people in this stadium-sized room are discussing trade policy and title
What?
Wake Up, Ashley. And
sorry.
No, it's fine. I get it.
People are falling asleep at home. We can't be putting the viewers to sleep.
So
it's already their bedtimes.
So yes, it was bad.
And then
so boring.
What's the planet called? It's a Coruscant. I always look at the way it's spelled and it looks like it's spelled wrong.
Well, one of the C's is supposed to be silent or something.
Okay, well, he's on Coruscant. It feels like George Lucas saw Blade Runner in 1982 and went, "This is a good idea."
Like how when you spell it for smelling things, scent, the C is silent. I think it's how Coruscant's supposed to be spelled.
All right. Well, anyway, back to Blade Runner. It's so very neon, and I guess trying to highlight that now we're in the Empire.
It's a planet metropolis. It's a republic still.
It's a republic. Okay. So yeah, there's all these neon signs, and there's a club and all sorts of things. And again, like the announcers in Phantom Menace, it just made me feel like we were in a galaxy down the street and not far, far away a long, long time ago.
Though it was nice to see this side of Star Wars that we never get to see because you get to see advertisements. And you get to see where the bulk of the population of the galaxy lives and things like that. It's nice if we could have seen a better version of this.
Yeah.
But in theory, it's cool. Because there is one decent scene attached to this, but we'll get to that when we talk about the likes.
All right, and then going back to, Anakin being in this as Hayden Christensen, when he meets back up with Padme, it is so creepy.
It's I don't know if you guys watch, was it Cinema Snob with the music, any scene where it's him looking at Padme, he's always got this, and it just be it's what a 17-year-old thinks flirting looks like.
Well, and he's supposed to be 17-year-old, so
yeah,
it's so creepy because she's older than him, and then she met him when he was a child,
older than him by 10 years,
and then his acting is very wooden. Which is something that lots of people have already commented on, but I really think the way he portrays as Anakin Skywalker, the guy is emotionally disturbed.
And I think that's what we talked about this when we were watching these. If that's what he was going for, then it makes a lot of sense because Anakin is an individual that was told from his incredibly young youth that he is this important figure. He is the chosen one. He is basically gonna save the world, and
our cat is trying to eat the tree.
I got it. for now.
All right.
But yeah, and then as he gets older, these rules and restrictions are put into place. And when
everybody's always telling him, no, you can't do something. And so anytime someone tries to correct him, his response is always very negative. And I am an educator. I have worked with a variety of students over the years, and it just shows all the classic signs of somebody that would have an emotionally disturbed label, and that somebody that is not getting the care that they need to work through and come up with solutions to when you're maybe feel like you're going to have an outburst. Yep. They do not have like the psychological services apparently in the Jedi Council. Well, obviously, if you're angry, you're not supposed to be a Jedi. So
right,
he's not getting the help he needs. So kind of looking at it through that lens. And I never noticed that before, but definitely now it comes off as a very emotionally disturbed performance.
Yep.
Another thing that really bothered me, besides their relationship, C-3PO comes back. We get less of Jar Jar in this movie because now C-3PO is acting like Jar Jar. All the stupid, tonally off comic relief is ridiculous. Like our cat is doing right now. Trying to eat the tree.
Beatrice. She's literally chewing on that tree.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for this delay, folks. This is very embarrassing.
Oh, live things.
You have plans. They're going to go so good. And then the cat tries to eat the tree. I'm trying
and we're like in like the tightest corner of our living room.
Can't just jump up.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that just does not work in this movie at all. But I think definitely the worst of it is Anakin and Padme's relationship. It is just so disgusting. Those two should not be together at all. It doesn't work. They have no chemistry, and it just makes me want to vomit thinking about it. And now another cat is trying to go figure out what's going on. And of course, there are some good things about I'm sorry, about to call it the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, it ended.
No, there were some other things. As my partner in crime joins us again.
Partner in something, that's for sure.
As we reset the set.
Oh my gosh! Things were going so good.
I know.
Okay.
All right, are we good now?
We're good now.
All right, let's try this again. Why couldn't the cat act bad in the 15 minutes we were not on?
You got to see another cat, though.
All right, so some of the things we did like about the Attack of the Clones, the big Jedi versus the droids fight was pretty cool.
It was nice to see. Like, I don't think it was handled well, but it was nice that it happened.
Darth Tyrannus, played by
Christopher freaking Lee,
was really menacing. And again, another one that should have been in more of the movies.
And yeah, we'll talk about that later, too.
This is where we get to see one of Joe's favorite sides of Obi-Wan.
Sassy Obi-Wan. He is one of my life goals, so to speak. I wish I had the Obi-Wan levels of sass.
And this is also where he looks most like Jesus.
He does. You've
like
probably seen the
picture.
meme. Like, you probably won't share this picture of Jesus on your Facebook wall, but, you know, you probably should or something.
Yeah, where everyone's like, my aunt has this picture in her house that she thinks is Jesus, and it's Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan.
From the second one, yeah.
Yeah. And then other things that we felt that were good, CGI looked a little bit better, especially with the droid troopers. They looked a little more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that Mace Windu was better utilized in this one. It didn't feel like a parody. Like, whereas in like Phantom Menace, it felt like so out of place that Samuel L. Jackson was there.
Yeah.
But now I felt like he really fit in this movie. And then, you know, Django, as much as we don't like the voice change from the previous movie.
Django is hardcore.
Yeah, Django is pretty cool. They didn't need to recycle the voice, though.
Nope. Also, his sociopathic son in Boba.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see baby Boba here.
Yeah, that is pretty cool too.
And he's like, "Shoot him, Dad! Blow his ship up!" And I'm just like, oh,
yeah, so many sociopaths and
kid is a psycho.
Yeah, emotionally disturbed people.
So,
all right, before we move on to most important scenes, let's check in with the chat as we've dealt with our cat disaster. I'm sure there's some fun comments.
Oh yeah, there's a few. Let's see. Tom's bringing up the long-standing theory that Jar Jar is in fact a Sith Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally hold that belief, but I will be incredibly happy if I'm wrong, because that would just be cool. Like it's a weird kind of cool, but it's cool. And I think the fact that it's weird is the reason it won't end up being like that. Christopher Lee is amazing. He's lived an amazing life and was an amazing actor. He was like a freaking spy for the British government or some stuff.
Yeah, some speculate he's the basis of James Bond.
Yeah, totally. I can buy it. Kira brings up #sand.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
sand.
Scores and roughness gets everywhere, which is actually true, people.
But I like it here.
You never
so smooth and soft.
If you've ever had sand get into your dryer, it's real hard to get out, and it's not fun. It does get everywhere. I totally agree with that statement now.
Cal brings up E.T. was there. It's true.
Yeah, the little E.T.s.
Which is what sparked
the
fans. Yeah, the Kleeporks or something like that.
I thought that's what they named him.
Maybe.
Botanicus is the other one.
His teacher, right?
Yeah.
But that's what sparked the theory that Star Wars takes place in our universe, because when E.T. saw the Yoda mask, he's like, home.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's just a thing.
Yeah, Kimber has a good comment about
fall in love with a younger dude they knew as a little boy. It feels like a fanfic.
Yes.
Have you seen The Graduate? You're trying to seduce me, Mrs.
Oh yeah, because
she
would have known him when
she
he was younger.
She talked to him about it.
Yeah, creepy.
How long have I known you?
So creepy.
My whole life, Mrs. Robinson.
C-3PO is the weakest droid. He's really terrible in this movie.
He's so bad, and I like C-3PO.
Yeah.
Like he's fun to make fun of because he's like the robot with the stick up his spine.
Yeah, proper.
Mavis tries to eat the tree. Struggle's real.
Yeah.
We have dealt with this kind of situation before. There's the long-standing story of we decided to keep Tony when he killed our first Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm.
That we're doing great. Thank you, Kimber. We appreciate it.
We try. Cat disasters.
The lizard ride. The lizard ride is wait, lizard ride. I thought
is that when they're gambling? Or that I'm thinking of something else. Sorry.
I was thinking of the lizards I'm thinking of are from episode 3. With it's all Obi-Wan all the time. And I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting because this movie is very forgettable.
It is a very forgettable
and Tom
movie.
has video for me, probably to convince me that Jar Jar is a Sith Lord.
Oh, okay.
Still don't buy it, but I'll watch your video.
All right, let's go to our most important scenes. Speaking of Tom's conspiracy theory.
Good night, Cal. Thank you for sticking with us as long as you have. And Kimber said she actually really liked the lizard ride. I really wish I could remember what lizards was talking about, but I don't. I'm sorry.
My mind is totally blank.
Sorry.
Because this movie is so forgettable.
It's so bad.
All right, so now to Tom's conspiracy theory is one of our most important scenes. And I believe this was your choosing.
When Jar Jar votes Palpatine or recommends Palpatine becoming the Supreme Chancellor and having all the power in the universe. This is like, why, Jar Jar? Like, he's so bad. Like, he's now socially clumsy. It's not just that he's clumsy enough to get kicked out of the Gungan cities. He is like politically clumsy.
Mm-hmm. Well, so much of the political stuff is so hard to follow in the movies. Like I don't even know what's going on half the time.
There's the no confidence vote scene and all that jazz, but still.
Yeah, it's just ugh. All right, so the scene I felt was the most important, even though like the way it's written and the way that the actress, portrays the death, like it doesn't like ring very true emotionally. But I feel like this is the most important scene in the movie because this is where like the catalyst of Anakin unleashing all of his anger, and the true disturbed personality comes forward. Like we definitely see in the way he acts around Obi-Wan and the way he acts around Padme that yes, he is very emotionally disturbed. Every slight gets angry about.
It's not fair.
But here, you know, like he feels like he could have done something to protect his mother. He cares deeply about her, and she got kidnapped by Tusken Raiders, and so
they had her for like a month.
Yeah, keeping her for whatever reason, I don't know. To me, it wasn't very clear, and so she dies in his arms, and it's very like not dramatic, but a little bit dramatic, like melodramatic, because like her head tilts back weird in a weird angle, and so this ignites an anger, and he kills every last one of the Tusken Raiders in the camp, even the women and the children.
And he makes a point of bringing that up. Like it's not like I don't know. It's pivotal, but it's weird.
Yeah, and definitely a foreshadowing of the path that he's going down, and shows that he like has very little remorse for his actions, like only a little, but
none.
Like I think he's only worried about his Padme judging him. I don't think he actually.
Yeah.
And then there's also some scenes in here that are pretty important too, where they're discussing political ideology, and she makes a comment about the things that you want, Anakin, or a dictatorship, and then he's like, well, why does that matter if like
whatever works?
Yeah, whatever works. And so there's kind of definite red flags that she should have gone running the other way, because they just don't see eye to eye. So
at one point they joke about he laughs about it afterwards. So she's like, "Oh, you're just trying to get my goat." I think that's the whole situation with there. But it doesn't matter. It's all weird. Everything about his delivery, which again, I'm starting to think that Hayden Christensen's actually one of the better actors in these films, because if that's what they were going for, he's pulling it off really well.
And yeah, so this kind of is a huge red flag that, you know, she should run the other way. And yet she's like, oh, it's not that bad. You're just upset. It's okay to be angry.
Yeah.
But it's not okay to slaughter a whole village. That's not the way things work. Oops, what?
We did something.
What did happen?
We're going to go back to this for a second while she fixes it up.
Okay, I don't know why that happened.
It happens.
All right, before we move on to the next thing, let's check in with the chat.
Kimberly likes the lizard ride that I think I mentioned that already. She's saying Jar Jar sketchy. She's into the Sith theory, if only because it makes him more interesting / bearable. Yeah,
that is true.
I'm more willing to believe he's just uninteresting and unbearable, because it's George Lucas we're talking about here. Randall would love for that theory to be true. Prequels made the Force sound like AIDS. That is not inaccurate, because it's all based on being like you have these organisms in your body. Yeah, that's why you have the power and stuff like that.
But like it doesn't have like a stigma, like, you know, with the
not like it did in the other trilogy.
Yeah,
the original trilogy. Still.
All right, let's move on to our last movie.
Star Wars Episode 3.
Revenge of the Sith released May 19th, 2005. So this was the year before I graduated from college. So this trilogy took me all through high school, almost all through college.
Disgusted noise.
All right, let us talk about things that we had a gripe about. Sorry, I got confused because there's people talking outside.
Yeah, like right outside.
Like super loud. This is one that I remember leaving the theater feeling very indifferent, especially because of the ending of the movie. But upon rewatching it, I'm thinking this one's not as bad as I remember. This is the only one that I have now a more positive connection out of the three, whereas the other two, like realized, are way worse than I remember. Let's see. One of our gripes. Let me try to see. The Jedi being taken down so easily when Order 66 is enacted, just like one after the other, like everybody's getting the... I'm trying to think of like the exact phrase.
The execute Order 66 or whatever.
Yeah, like when, and like everybody, like they get the drop on everybody.
Yeah.
Like it's just so easy to kill all these like trained warriors that have, you know,
survived these wars.
And have like a special sense where you can tell if somebody is going to, like, you know, try to get you.
I wonder if that's part of the reason the clones were so effective is they can't detect, they can't really perceive that far into the future because of the dark side of the Force shrouding everything. And the clones don't have thoughts or emotions. They're just programmed to do this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Regardless, it feels like we're just shown that all of them get gunned down super easily, and I felt like more should have been able to escape.
Yeah, and like maybe go into hiding. Like they didn't have to kill everybody.
And if you, of course, with further lore, some do escape. Whether you believe the video games are canon or not, or whatever books and whatever TV series, we do know some escape. That's legit, I get it, but it feels like they literally killed every single one of them off in the movie when one of them could have gotten away, like Plo Koon. I wish Plo Koon could have gotten away. What are you doing, phone?
Siri's trying to talk to you.
Siri does that every once.
Another thing that we felt was really bad was like a lot of the forced cameos and what Joe likes to describe as
the race to starting point. This film is super bad about it. When you brought up the Force cameo, the worst one, the worst offender is Chewbacca. Because, like, there's these two Wookiees on Kashyyyk with Yoda, and one of them is Chewbacca, and they make a point of, like, goodbye, Chewbacca, like, really just drawing out the goodbye to it, and it's just, it's nice, but I wish they would have done something better than just a little one-off here, where it's like, oh, yeah, Yoda knew Chewbacca, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Chewbacca was a lieutenant, but then again, it's all in Wookiee speak or whatever. So I don't even know how they would have let us know.
Yeah, because they don't typically translate that.
No. Star Wars Holiday Special is proof of that.
Obi-Wan leaving Anakin to die I felt was pretty messed up.
But I was going to talk about the race to the start for a moment.
Okay.
Like, in the last scenes of the film, it's like these forced moments of everybody getting to their starting place and everyone explaining what's going to happen. Like, Yoda had to tell, we had to see on screen that Yoda told Obi-Wan how to become a Force ghost when he dies. And like, oh, no, Qui-Gon will teach you how to do that. And he's like, Qui-Gon? What? And then we also have to have the scene where you have Bail Organa introducing the two droids to Captain Antilles, who is like, hey, wipe the protocol droid's memory too, and you'll take care of these droids, which is something they bring up offhandedly in the prequel or in the original trilogy. So I don't know. It's so weird. It's this awkward race to start that I just didn't feel was super necessary.
Yeah, and then going back to Anakin leaving, or like, sorry, Obi-Wan leaving Anakin to die on Mustafar. It doesn't feel like it's right.
Yeah,
like he's a Jedi, and like that was his Padawan.
And it doesn't. And I get that Obi-Wan is hurt and betrayed, and Anakin is dangerous. I mean, Anakin killed the younglings. Anakin killed countless Jedi and would go on to do so. But it also feels like Obi-Wan would have taken him or something. I don't know. That feels like a race to start moment too. Like, I think it would have been better served if the Emperor was showing up at the last minute, and that's why Obi-Wan had to leave instead of taking Anakin with him.
Yeah, like
or
it had
something
to
like that.
86 it.
Yeah.
Padme's death bothered me as well because, like, she's fine, but she's dying.
We don't know why.
We don't know why.
It's like she's giving up her will to live.
Yeah, it's like, maybe come up with a better reason, like, why? Like, because he force choked her for, like, a minute.
Yeah.
And so maybe, like, I know they're trying to, like, set up this thing where, like, oh, like, Darth Vader, like, we're going to lie to you and say that you killed her. Well, maybe he could have had, like, a small hand in why she died.
Yep.
Like, you know, the unintended consequence of, like, just choking for her even for a moment, like, messed up something or caused...
like
something.
Lack of oxygen to the brain causing long-term damage.
Yeah, I mean, I know they have a lot of technology and stuff, but there's like pregnancy-related things that can happen too. Like, oh, we didn't know she was having twins, and we should have intervened earlier.
Yep.
Or like just preeclampsia or something, which makes sense. And they caught it too late, because if you do catch that too late, even if the cure for that is having the baby, but if you wait too long, then you can still succumb to the effects of that condition. So there was like real things they could have done, and like, oh, she died because she was sad.
Kimber says Padme makes much more sense with Kenobi.
Yes.
And that if you made it a love triangle with Padme and Obi, it'd make more sense. Yeah, Tom's saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's true. And I think even Anakin thinks that's happening at some point. Yes, because
that's when he sees Obi-Wan on the ship, then he like immediately turns on her and is like, you are together, and that's when he chokes her. And
yeah. So it would have made for a better story, but there's a lot of things they could have done to these films to make them for better stories.
Yeah, and then of course, when we get to see the big reveal of Darth Vader in all of his lovely Darth Vader armor, and then he like breaks out of the restraints and says the worst line of any Darth Vader ever.
There are two no's in this scene. He says a low one first, and then yells it. Mm-hmm. And I would have been fine without the yelling of no. Mm-hmm. I would have been fine with like a primal scream of rage doing all this stuff. But like the first no was like, no. No. The second no is just.
And then I know a lot of people at the time made fun of the way he like walked, but like he's never walked on those fake legs before, so it makes sense that he would not be like graceful.
It doesn't matter if his nerves are hardwired to him or not.
I wouldn't be surprised if he like fell over.
Yep.
Like that would probably have been too like the wrong tone, so that's probably not what they were going for. All right, so we did like some things about this movie.
Yeah, we are crapping on it, but this one ended up being our favorite of the prequels.
All right, going back to your favorite Obi-Wan.
Yeah, the sass is up to over 9,000 in this one. It's so much. My favorite Obi-Wan line is in this film, and it's after he kills Grievous with the blaster, and he's just like so uncivilized. Just like, yes.
Yeah, speaking of General Grievous, I always thought that General Grievous was in the second movie, but again, I get things confused.
These ones blend.
I thought he was really cool looking and very scary looking too. Like if you were a little kid and saw that, you'd be like crying probably.
You mean Prototype Vader?
Yeah, exactly. Prototype Vader. This also, even though this gets made fun of all the time, but it was just so campy. It was hilarious. Obvious evil Emperor head turning.
Oh yeah, they talk about this in, I want to say, like, if not Honest Trailers or Cinema Sins or one of those film shows on YouTube where they make fun of the film. You just like every time when they're at the show, the weird Xanarkin style blitzball show, with the weird water dancing around. At one point, the Emperor is just talking, Palpatine is just talking to Anakin, and see, perhaps you should listen to what I have to say. It would be a shame for something to happen. It's just like, it's this look where it's just like...
He does it so many times.
It's like 5 times in one conversation. And it's the slow head turn with the raised eyebrows where he's like, I'm obviously evil. Duh.
Duh. Because that's something Emperor Palpatine would say, duh.
Well... I'm one that goes for Papa Palpatine. To quote Robot Chicken.
Yeah, Robot Chicken's great.
We'll talk about them on Saturday.
The Emperor versus the Yoda fight was pretty good.
It was hardcore.
Yeah.
Like,
because it's like, you didn't kill me, I'm Yoda.
It was...
Because Yoda's now, like, street.
It was... I knew it was going to be at least fun when Yoda just walked into Palpatine's office.
Like,
these 2 guards are like at the door, like, hey, Bill, what you doing this Saturday? Oh, going to go get a smoothie with my one main girl. We're going to take the flying car down 3700th Street, and we're going to go get a smoothie. Oh, it's so great, Bill. How are y'all doing in general? Oh, it's not bad. It was this little girl. That's basically how it went down. They're just like chilling, and then Yoda walks in, and it's just like, nah.
Nah. That ain't me.
I'm not about that life.
And then the final thing that, like, I was so sad to see Count Dooku get decapitated.
So hardcore.
But it's like he has like the 2 lightsabers, and it's like, and cut your head off.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it. And I was like, oh man, that's messed up.
It's not the right way.
I forgot about that. And then, like, before that, like, both his hands were like cut off.
Cut off, yep.
It's like, I'll teach you. Mess with me. But yeah, overall, that one is definitely a lot better than I remembered.
Also, Obi-Wan has the full mustache and beard going. I like Randall, who is in the chat, is the closest looking to the ideal Obi-Wan of people we know. Yeah. He's got the same kind of beard, the same mustache, and I love the little that Obi-Wan does at one point. They meme Obi-Wan from this so much, and it's perfect because it's like, look at all the F's I give, Anakin. Look at them. Look upon this field. So many memes. Before
we move on to the most important scenes and then the best and worst foreshadowing, let's check in with our chat.
People talking about Padme making sense with Kenobi. Kimber and Tom both commiserating over the no.
It's pretty bad.
Randall subscribing to the theory that Palpatine was the one who drained Padme's life force to keep Vader alive. That seems kind of far reach, but I mean, he is able to leap bodies in a single bound, so it's conceivable.
That would make more sense than her being sad.
Yeah. Well, I have the theory also that Anakin's oppressive essence did it to her, like all that jazz. Whatever, it's possible. It's the Force. Except make a plan for blowing up Starkiller Base. It cannot do that. That's not how the Force works.
That's not how the Force works.
Kimber loves General Grievous. She has coined Spicy Ben. I'm fine with that. I like it.
Yeah.
Perfect. His badass character and his backstory is pretty cool too with Grievous. It's true. He's got a pretty intense backstory. And the Clone Wars really adds to the prequels, kind of makes me love the prequels a little more. Yeah, and I can get that because I enjoy the Clone Wars animated series. You haven't seen nearly as much of it. And what I've seen of Rebels, I really like too, because it expands upon stuff that the Clone Wars did in like a good way. So yeah, totally. I'm down.
All right.
Well, we'll talk about that on Saturday. So, are we ready?
Yes. And I think we had let me just double check real quick. Yeah, I think we both agreed on the most important scene in this movie.
And it's really interesting. It's poignant. And you'll know why in a second. So for us, one of the most important scenes more than anything else is at the end of the race to starting place, when everyone's at their starting positions, right before the gun gets pulled for episode 4, we have this scene of Owen and Beru holding little baby Luke as they look through the midspace to the setting of the binary suns. And the same music is playing, and the same, it's like Owen is standing in the same position. The suns are almost identically in the same place. Night in Luke's shot.
Yeah, it was a clear night in Luke's shot, but we see some little clouds. And just like the hope that things are going to be good for this now. This little family has a child to take care of. All the hopes and dreams of the future. Because at this point, it probably seems like things are like looking up in the world because not all of the Outer Rim probably don't know all of the political intrigue and scandal.
Probably barely have any sort of in touch with the Republic/Empire anyway.
Yeah, so, a new empire rising, and of course with the empire rising, they, naturally as, the course of history, they will say like, oh, like that previous regime was bad, now everything's good. And then of course, this is where we get eventually the rise of the rebellion.
And this is also poignant too, because much like I had brought up the sun setting on the last night of Luke's normal life, this is the sun setting on their last night of being just them. Like this is the beginning of their new life with little Luke with them, having to hide the secret.
Yes.
And everything else. This is a new day for them, and this is like the little period at the end of their previous sentence.
And out of all the scenes in this prequel trilogy, I actually felt this one had the most emotional impact too. And maybe it has to do with the fact that it's, a copy of, or an homage to the one in A New Hope, and it uses the same score. But I really felt something in this scene, and not everything in the prequels, have to be a big old dumpster fire. I mean, some elements are horrible.
A lot of them are.
But I think this scene kind of gets it right, where there is hope for the future, or at least this family thinks there is hope for the future.
One could call it a new hope.
Oh, my husband, y'all.
So what's next?
All right, so we're going to look at the best and worst of the foreshadowing / dramatic irony, because it really does depend on your knowledge, if you've seen the other movies, and what order. So we felt that one of the best pieces of foreshadowing was anytime that Obi-Wan mentions to Anakin, "Oh, you will be the death of me," or however he phrases it in particular.
Which I wish I had kept up with it. Because I'd like to believe there's at least 2 or 3 times every film he says.
Yes, and then this is when they're walking.
It'll be the death of me one day.
This is when they're walking into the club on Coruscant.
Everybody in the club getting tips.
Everybody in the club using their force powers to make people act right. Because that was actually pretty funny. It's no, you do not want to sell me drugs.
You want to stop selling death sticks. You want to change your life.
Yes, it was pretty great. Oh, force powers, making people do the right thing when they don't want to. Wait. What? That's not right. Messed up. All right, then of course we talked about this. The whole
goodbye, Chewbacca.
I don't know what line delivered. Was there not another take?
Well,
why does he say it like that?
It's why? What makes I know I'm relatively ignorant to the life of Chewbacca before he hung out with Han. But why is Chewbacca so important?
Yeah.
I really want to know, why he's so important. Is he the son of a general?
Where's that prequel movie?
Right? I'd watch that.
all in Wookiee?
Oh, God. What have I asked for?
Please add subtitles.
What has science done?
Not everybody speaks Wookiee.
So
choose your own.
Share a look. That's the name of the language.
Choose your own plot for what you thought happened based on scenes. Hey, don't say that.
Don't censor me.
But yeah, that's
that was the prequels.
Yeah, those were the prequels. That was the thing.
That was a thing.
2 of them were worse than we remembered.
1 was way better than we remembered.
But they still have an important impact on the franchise, because if it weren't for the prequels,
Star Wars might have died. I'm putting a lot of emphasis on it, but you know how with a lot of movies that are owned by studios, they make those crummy movies to keep the licensing rights? It's also to keep the memory of that franchise alive. We make fun of the bad Nightmare on Elm Street films and the bad Hellraiser films, but we still talk about them.
Yeah.
We still talk about the prequels. We may hate on them, for lack of a better term, but we still kind of love them. They're like that really bad car we had in high school or something. It broke down pulling into the middle of a lane. And then you had to use your screwdriver to start the car back up. But everyone's yelling for you to start the car. And you're like, shut up, man. I'm starting the car. Lay off. True life.
I don't think everybody had that same experience, Joe.
But
I think that was just you.
Perhaps. But that's not the point. The point is, we make fun of these films, but I would rather watch these than others. I was bored through part of Phantom Menace. I was bored through most of Attack of the Clones. But there's moments we remember about them that we love. Sam Jackson is a pretty entertaining actor throughout all of it. He probably had a fantastic time doing this. We had the best youth casting of an older character ever.
Yeah, it's true.
Ewan McGregor is I love him as Obi-Wan. He's like a young Alex Guinness in these films. Alec. You get the drift.
The other thing that think going back to the whole, like, these are all the younger versions, man, everyone's life must be super rough on Tatooine because they aged terribly in 20 years.
They're moisture farmers on a desert world.
Yeah, I know. But if you think about it thematically, you know, under the thumb of the Empire, things are going to be more stressful, and that would cause people to maybe, you know, not, you know, be as healthy or look as good because they are under stress all the time because you never know, like, what kind of horrible stuff is going to happen.
Randall brings up a very, very, very good one. The final lightsaber duel on Mustafar was much better than I remembered it growing up. Like seeing it when we first saw it when we were younger, it's much better. We talked about it when we started watching Phantom Menace, that it was a step forward for the scope of like what lightsaber dueling meant, because it was much faster strikes and quick connections and almost like this psychic ability to see the strike coming so you can deflect the hit faster.
Yeah.
I liked that, and the duel on Mustafar really did that. What I didn't like was all the flipping and the jumping and the weird acrobatics. Like, they should have pulled that back, and they used that very little on Mustafar. And I mean, when Anakin used it at that one point, when Obi-Wan had the high ground, it just didn't work out for him. That's not the point. But yes, in general, the lightsaber duel on Mustafar was fantastic. I also like when they're riding on the hovering platforms over all the magma doing the lightsaber duel part, and Anakin's actually riding on top of a droid. And I'm just like, that droid's like, what is going on with my life?
Yeah, and then kind of as like a final point before we check back in with the chat and say goodbye to everybody, you know, if we, like you said, if we didn't have the prequels, like, there might not be a new generation of kids that really like Star Wars. This is a kind of a gateway for younger people because, you know, we have, you know, a bit of a nostalgia for the ones that we saw when we were kids, but, you know, younger audiences do have a harder time engaging with older media. Those stories, you know, for those kids, you know, maybe aren't as engaging because not all of it looks consistently, especially with the way that George Lucas has not recut them, but, you know, the special editions, it's not like all consistent with the CGI.
It's bad.
And so
just straight up bad.
That's going to be very distracting to younger kids who are used to seeing the types of CGI that we see in today's movies. And so if this is a gateway that gets them interested in the story, and then it makes them keep watching it because now this has engaged them, go, oh, it's really cool. I want to find out what happens with this Darth Vader guy. Let's watch the next ones. If this is the gateway that gets more people to watching the story, then, you know, it's not that bad.
Well, and without the prequels, we wouldn't have the Clone Wars animated series. We wouldn't have the Clone Wars drawn series by Genndy Tartakovsky, which Tom wanted me to bring up. But we'll talk about that on Saturday, Tom. At least he wanted me to bring it up when we were talking on Twitter about it.
Okay.
And we wouldn't have some of the video games that we have. We wouldn't have, if there wasn't this mid to late 90s, early 2000s renaissance of Star Wars, then we wouldn't have what we have now, probably. It'd be a very different landscape.
Definitely. We might even have The Force Awakens as we know it. It could look very different because, you know, as much as the prequels brought Star Wars to a new generation, it also was kind of a cautionary tale to any filmmakers that want to try to make a Star Wars story of like, these are some things that work, but then there's a lot of elements that don't work, especially with all the CGI. This isn't just a Star Wars problem, it's just a movie industry problem where people rely so heavily on CGI. And I was surprised that the CGI in the prequels didn't look as aged as I thought it would. Like, they must have spent a lot of money developing that where it aged pretty well, because sometimes you look at movies today and the CGI is terrible and it came out last week. These came out in the late 90s and early 2000s and look better than some things that are coming out in 2017.
I will agree for Revenge of the Sith. I feel like there's parts of Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace that are still really bad. Yeah. Because we get the CGI droids in the first one. And then Attack of the Clones, all the clone troopers, when they're attacking the arena, are all CGI, and they look bad. But aside from, also Yoda. Yeah. But aside from that, Yes, it's true. The choreography was improved.
Definitely the script and stuff, but we'll talk a little bit more about all of that when we actually do our Force Awakens review tomorrow. But the broader point that I wanted to make is, like, you can look at the prequels as something that can get younger fans into the franchise, but also to filmmakers out there serve as the cautionary tale of, don't rely so heavily on CGI. Practical effects mixed with CGI can look a lot better.
Yeah, like
and
Jurassic
also,
Park.
If you don't have a good story, then there's really no point in making a movie. You have to have something to tell. If it's just like a bunch of Senate meetings, then that's not a movie.
Yeah, find a better way to do it.
Yes.
So, but that's been us talking about the prequels. Better than we expected-ish.
Yeah.
Worse than we expected-ish. All in all, we still had a good time.
Yeah, before we go, let's check back in with our friends in the chat to see if anybody has any final thoughts or anything.
I think Kimber said at one point that's a very fair point. Or it's a fair point, and I think it's talking about, like, even though we crap on the prequels, we love them. There are prequels, dang it. And Kimber was talking about my car story, how very specific it was, because it actually happened.
Yeah, it's a true story. I was there.
And the final lightsaber duel on Mustafar, like I brought up, Randall loved it. It's very true, very good.
Yeah.
So,
so if you enjoyed listening to us talk about Star Wars and thought our perspective was decent, even though there are 10,000 other perspectives on Star Wars out there, probably more than 10,000. And we will be back live tomorrow night, probably around 9 Eastern, because we're going to go on after our friend's show Encrypted, which airs on the Odd Shaped channel. And so after their show wraps, we'll be live with a retrospective on The Force Awakens.
Retrospective is kind of a hard way to put it.
But,
at least our take on it.
Yeah. But it's all a part of this series, which is a retrospective about all things Star Wars. And so now we've gone from the Rebellion into the Republic, and now we're going back to the Resistance. So the timeline's a little wonky, but...
It is. It does like a Fibonacci thing.
Yes. So, again, if you liked this, give it a like, subscribe to our channel.
Share with your friends.
And we will be back tomorrow.
We will. Thanks.